Approval of the agenda. Councilor Lehman.
That the Tuesday, April 14th, 2020 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Councilor Howell. All in favor? Right over to 8 discussion items. 8.1 curbside recycling program. Item forward from March 16th, 2020 meeting. Discussions about cost of services and what other communities are doing as requested by Mayor Bertrand. Mayor Bertrand, you want to start it off?
Yeah, you betcha. So I just, obviously a lot of information there. I hope council had a chance to look it over. Basically breaking down the costs of the recycling program within the regional district. And also showing or highlighting the fact that there are 3 communities at the moment with curbside recycling. And 2 of those communities charge a nominal fee for that. It's obviously not cost recovery, but they do charge $5 or $6. And the other community, the 3rd community, doesn't. So I wanted to bring this forward to council just to show the costs, number one, but also propose a possible nominal fee for the curbside. As far as I understand, our curbside was approved, I believe, through the PRD. They're budgeting for us to enter the curbside recycling program. I haven't heard anything to the contrary of that, so our plans, I think, can still move forward on this, but I wanted to bring this report back to council to really highlight the cost of everything there. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from council?
Yeah, I have a question, Acting Mayor. I'm still uncertain what the actual costs are for Tumbler Ridge as far as putting in the baler and just what the PRD covers.
Mr. We have any of those answers? I have a couple of them. But...
I'm going to defer to Mr. Wall since he's been working on this file.
So the total capital cost to the district of Tumbler Ridge will be about $500,000. The regional district will cover the processing of it. So they have a contract with a recycling company in Fort St. John. So actually all the recycling in the region done through the municipalities is through the contract with the regional district with the company. Can you hear me okay on the line?
No.
So the regional district has a contract with a company in Fort St. John, and all the municipal recycling is done through that company. So anything that's done even out of Dawson Creek is done through that company in subcontracts. So they will pay for all the processing of the material. You can see in the regional district's report, it highlights that they believe in order for Tumbler Ridge to join, it's going to cost them about $126,000 a year in recycling costs. Now those are regional district costs. That is the amount the regional district will be subsidizing the district of Tumbler Ridge in order to do recycling. So the costs to the district of Tumbler Ridge are negligible to the point where we might actually come out in the positive on this for the selling of the materials. So that is the cost to the district of Tumbler Ridge plus the cost to the regional district. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Howe?
Yeah, so I need a little bit more explanation on that. So $120,000 is what the PRRD is going to pay, and that is what to process the material. So
the contract that the regional district has with the recycler in Fort St. John is, to the best of my understanding, has some sort of cost or price guarantee to the contractor regarding recycling costs that so the recycler in Fort St. John makes their money by selling semi-processed recycling material to other recycling processors, and they can only do that at a certain cost which they make money. So the regional district cost comes from the fact that they are contractually obligated to pay the difference between the amount of money that the recycler in Fort St. John is losing. So the processing costs at about 126 is what the regional district estimates is what they will be paying that recycler in order to process our material.
Councillor Owen?
So the process will be people recycle it at their homes, put it into a blue bin at the curb. The district of Tumbler Ridge comes around with our garbage truck, which can already pick this stuff up, throws it into the garbage truck, takes it down to our facility where we've got a building built or whatever. We squash it into some type of a bale, and from that point forward, we don't pay for it anymore. The regional district comes in, picks up the product, drives it to Fort St. John, and so the transportation of the product to Fort St. John is paid for by the regional district.
Mr. Owen?
Mr. Wall?
I believe it is the company itself who is paying for the transportation of the materials. I don't know if it's the regional district, but it's not the district of Tumbler Ridge.
Sorry, are you ahead of me, or?
No, you go ahead.
And then the cost of the the bales that we put on their truck, they're going to give us money for that as well. The cost of those bales.
That's my understanding.
Of the value of those bales.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And then we also will have a lower fee for the garbage. We won't have to pay as much garbage. I can't recall if that's actually a lower per unit fee that we're paying, or if it's just because we're not going to be sending as much. I can't remember. I think it's both, but the number that is in the report would be the amount that we're expecting to have a cost decrease of.
Okay.
Okay, I got Councillor Norberry, then Mayor Bertrand.
Thank you, Chair. So hearing that explanation, thank you, Mr. Wall. It sounds like there will be very little cost to the district outside of the capital cost, so I don't think we should be charging our residents until we start seeing more of a fee on it. So I think we should continue down our path as we've already opted in, and until we start seeing a cost, we can reevaluate at that time. But for now, I don't see why we should charge our residents for this.
I got Mayor Bertrand and Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so a couple of PRD meetings ago, when this report came forward, I also tried to explain to the board at the regional district that if we are going to go about baling this material, in my eyes, it doesn't make sense to get it shipped to Fort St. John and then have them ship south again. It's a huge backtrack and probably increases the cost significantly. So I'm still trying to work with the regional district to find an efficient way to make this baling system work. That's still in process, but I've explained to them that if we're going to go ahead and make this capital cost of installing the baler, I think we all need to work together to make sure it's used efficiently and not adding to the costs in any way. We do indirectly pay for this through the regional district as well. So that's the reason why I'm proposing another nominal fee on top of this. Certainly not a cost recovery, but it would lessen the burden on the other end as far as us contributing to the Peace River Regional District as well. But then there's also the cost savings. I don't know if we're going to come ahead on this, to be honest with you. Looking at the reports for what we're getting for the recycled material, it's quite dismal. There's not a lot that you make money on in the system that we have at the moment. So the Solid Waste Committee at the Regional District is really having a look at this and trying to sort it out, basically. That's another reason why I wanted to present this permaculture project that's happening in Northern Rockies, but that'll wait till next meeting. But that's another way that we can divert a lot of material away from our transfer bins as well.
Okay. Councillor Kirby and Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I am for moving forward with curbside recycling. I would also agree with a monthly cost. It doesn't have to be a large fee, like Fort St. John is charging $5 a month. I think this puts, there could be costs that we're not sure of. We still have to educate the public, and that's, there's costs in that. So that would be, I would be with Mayor Bertrand on a small fee.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Lehman, then Councillor Roca.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There's a couple of things. The contract with this recycling company is done in 2021. What happens if they decide to opt out and nobody takes over transporting this recyclable? And are there benefits to us bailing it here, or is that not even the case? Does it matter if we bail it or not?
Do you have a that?
I don't have an answer for that, Mr. Wall. Do you have an answer for that?
So the question was about bailing and what happens if the contract's not renewed. So it looks like that the regional district is entering into contracts on a 5-year cycle. So council will never have more than 5 years of surety of the contract going to be there. And if those contracts fall apart and nobody is there to take its place, then the cost of recycling will go to what we had originally proposed back in 2017. Council makes the decision if it's cost prohibitive or not, but it would be cost prohibitive. It would be very expensive to do it if that was the case. You can see it from here. The regional district is subsidizing Tumbler Ridge to the cost of about $150,000 a year. That's what it would cost for us to not do it with them, if not a little bit more. The amount of material that would be coming out of Tumbler Ridge and the amount of trucks you're going to need to deal with loose material and just the transportation and everything, the logistics of doing that with non-baled material is going to be very difficult if you can find a recycling company that's willing to deal with that. If not, we're going to have to hire all the trucks, manage all of that, and get it from point A to point B. So logistically, I'm not sure that would be a good route to go down.
Thank you.
Councillor Kalka, then Councillor Majinski. So I guess my comment is back to Mayor Bertrand. We heard from Councillor Kirby, she said $5 is that's what Fort St. John's charging. Mayor Bertrand, where were you thinking in a dollar figure?
Yeah, I was, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was thinking the same $5. I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Chair. I know it says here curbside recycling program. What about apartment buildings, stratas, and the industrial area here? They obviously have a lot of recycling, a lot of plastics, a lot of cardboards, and no bins to put them in. So are we looking at maybe down the road getting larger bins so that they can slide all this stuff into that can be picked up and taken down to the baler as well? That's my only concern, is not everybody's going to get a chance to be part of this. If you own a home was your only option, having a blue bin in front of your house. The apartment buildings, that's a lot of residents in our community, and where are they going to put all their recycling if they'd like to contribute to this?
Yeah, so I guess we can go right back to stop that, but my thought would be, right now we already have the blue bins downtown that are used for cardboard. We have one in front of the dollar store, or to the side of the dollar store. So I'm assuming we would be looking at something. I just assumed it. So to me, good question from you, Councilor Majinski, about it. So, Ms. Rillo?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That is one question I can answer for you. Multifamily residences won't qualify to participate in the curbside program. They will be able to, as they're doing now, take their, especially in the condos, take their goods down to the regular depot that we have for recycling. That we do have recycling for those homes. And your question regarding industrial, this is just for residential. So industrial as well.
Councillor Howe, then Councillor Kirby.
So with regards to that, Why couldn't we just have like a blue bin, garbage bin like the one they have downtown for them?
I think you go out and stop, but I'm wondering if it's in regards to contamination, maybe?
I'm not really clear on why, the reasoning that multifamilies don't qualify, or not qualify.
So would that be council directed? Mr. Wall?
Mr. Wall?
Yeah, so the risk is contamination, so they're quite strict on the contamination in a multi-family unit. There's no way to track who would be doing it, so I think the plan is to find out from other areas how they've managed that. It might just be that on the multifamily units, there's more enforcement needed from the municipal staff level, but given the amount of recyclables that could be created, if they're not going to follow it, it will increase the fees paid by the entire community. So, one apartment building that's not following the rules, or even 5 or 10 people in an apartment building that aren't following the rules, could have us kicked out of the program entirely. So Dawson Creek and Fort St. John have got warning letters at different points telling them that, we're not, the recyclers are not at the point where we're going to fine you, we're simply going to kick you out of the program if you don't get on board and do this properly. When it comes to businesses have the opportunity to purchase those large bins or rent the large bins like they do now. It can get into the pickup. One thing I'd have to clarify with Mr. Beal is whether or not this program is only residential. I know with the R3 recycling programs that we do now, you can't have business or industrial within it. This program might be different. This might allow the industrial and business, or it might be similar where it's only residential. It's just residential.
Councillor Kirby, then Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. My question was answered, so I can pass up my spot.
Councillor Norbury, then Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Wall kind of answered my question. It was sort of surrounding the the high density, like the apartment buildings and stuff, right? Like it's the issue that comes down to contamination, and I want to think, like, is this the time to start talking about how we can help them, or because there's a lot of people in those buildings, right? So maybe we can look at bringing the bins back downtown, or setting up some sort of system to get them to the. That's okay. Mr. Wall answered my question. Sorry.
Yeah, and when we got talking with bins, we all rent those. Right? As owners, they rent those. So maybe that's something that the department needs to look at, and maybe they have a way of policing by renting a bin, a way of policing how it's going to be used for their recycles too, if they're concerned about cross contamination. So, Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Acting Chair. Just one more question. Do we know the annual fee for solid waste that the residents pay for currently for each home or resident?
I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Belong, you can answer that one.
Yeah, so we don't usually charge fees. So when it comes to the delivery of services, why you'll find fees in a couple other communities is for a couple-fold reasons. One, there's different services delivered to different areas of the community, and that's not really the case on Tumbler Ridge. Everybody who gets services delivered here has water, they get wastewater, they get garbage. So we don't really have the type of community where you have different services delivered to different areas. So all of our taxation generally comes from direct taxation. We don't have the number of charges you would see on another community's tax bill. Like Fort St. John, for example, has a fee for your curbside, they'll have a fee for your solid waste, they'll have a fee for the per unit water that you've used, and all those sorts of things, where we just have one larger bill for the services. So when council's talking about instituting a recycling specific fee onto the tax bill, it's definitely something that can be done, but it's not traditionally something we do in Tumbler Ridge. We traditionally keep all of our services within the money we would collect from the mill rate. The differences that you get with that is with mill rate, the more valuable your property, the more you're paying, whereas when you're doing service fees, you're paying per unit. So it takes away the difference of somebody who has a higher valued house paying more and somebody has a lower valued house. So that would be something for council to think about. Do you want to, by moving to user fees, you would be shifting in a general sense, and I understand this doesn't work on every individual basis, but in the general sense, by switching to user fees, you're moving the tax burden away from the wealthy and more on to the poor. And another reason why you have those user fees is some people are able to opt out depending on what area you're living in. And I would say to council, when it comes to the recycling, you are not going to get lower unit costs by having people opt out of recycling. The costs of recycling are in the capital cost, which does not change by how many people opt in, and it's in the actually picking up the garbage. And unless you get 75% of the town not opting in, the cost is generally going to be the same whether or not you have a few in or out. So the only other reason to have a service fee on there would just be to tell residents, hey, we're doing recycling, this is how much it costs you. But if you're saying that we're not going to do cost recovery for the recycling, then I don't see the benefit of doing it that way. If you're not going to do cost, show the residents this is how much it costs for this service, then I think you're pretty easy to just leave it within your the money you collect from the mill rates. Sorry, just one last point. And the other thing that would do would be to divorce. So again, if you're not connecting the service charge to your actual cost, but let's say you did want to do that, you want to connect the service cost to the actual cost to put on the tax bill, then you're separating out the ability of the mines to subsidize that service. Have I lost everybody? Does that make sense? And so, and that's one of the reasons why, again, Tumbler Ridge hasn't gone to service costs, because when you do that, you take out that 70% of our taxes, which subsidize the residential uses for those things.
Any more discussion or questions from council? Councillor Hutt.
Should we, residents, be expecting an increase in taxes from the PRRD then? So there's a portion on your taxes that you pay to the PRRD. If they're going to just, out of the goodness of their heart, take on $126,000 in costs from the district of Tumbler Ridge, would we not expect them to increase the rates in Tumbler Ridge for the PRRD? Can they not do that? Could they do that?
I'd say the same thing. I think that's where Mayor Bertrand was talking about trying, instead of shipping it south or shipping it north to Fort St. John, just to be able to ship it south to save some of that money, so it's not such an amount from PRD.
But are they going to increase the tax rate, their mill rate for Tumbler Ridge?
Mayor Bertrand, do you have that answer?
I'm not positive on that, to be honest. I would assume if the cost goes up for our recycling program, it's going to need to be collected somehow. Now, collection from the regional district, of course, is across all tax bases for Tumbler Ridge, not just the residential, but so it definitely lessens the burden on residential. But yeah, I'm not positive on that question.
Ms. Torvald?
So my understanding of this, and this needs to be confirmed, is that this goes into the general operating costs of the regional district. This is not the same as the Economic Development Fund, which is specifically requisitioned from the community in which the project is undertaking. This goes into the overall cost of running the regional district, which has its money requisitioned from all of the different areas. So it would be good if we could confirm that, and maybe Mayor Bertrand or Councillor Kirby at the next meeting could find out. But my understanding is that the entire regional district costs are apportioned out, which would mean that probably about 95% of Tumbler Ridge's, of that 150 or 130, would be covered by the other municipalities. And so the reason this is happening, and this highlights the opportunity Tumbler Ridge has, I think, to do recycling, is the regional district did not understand what the costs of recycling were going to be when they started this program. They only realized this about 6 months ago when Tumbler Ridge asked to be a part of it, and then a report got created, and then the regional district's eyes kind of went wide and said, my God, this is very expensive. So they had already let Dawson, Fort St. John, and poos into this system without totally understanding what the cost implications were going to be. And so then they said, listen, if we have everybody else in here, we can't keep Tumbler Ridge out, which is why they voted to let us in. So my understanding of it is that that amount is apportioned to the actual cost of doing business in the regional district, which is sent out to all the industrial and all the residential in the whole Peace region.
Mr. Chair.
Hey, 1 second.
Sorry.
Councilor.
Yeah, and I think when we were looking at, like when we're looking at specific projects that we were opting into, and Councillor Lima made a really good point in that it spread across our entire taxation base. When we were looking at a couple $100,000, and it would actually cost a residence was like under $20, right? So now if you take that and you spread it out again across all of the regional districts, I think the actual cost to Tumbler Ridge would be pretty small.
Okay. Mayor Bertrand.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Wall's comments there. He is correct. It is apportioned over the entire regional district. So what's happened, or what is happening, I believe, is the rural areas are wanting some sort of a curbside as well. Some of the area, like everybody is paying for this recycling program within the regional district, but not everybody's getting the same service. So when we decided to go to a curbside program, it kind of brought some hassles up within the regional district. So yeah, Mr. Wall was correct that everybody pays it is in general. But so that's why, if we come into this curbside recycling program and not showing that we're charging a nominal fee, it's like we're kind of taking advantage of all of the areas to pay for our service as well, proportionately. But I understand what Mr. Wall was saying about just collecting it through the mill rate, but I think this is a little bit different. I think this is equal to all residents in some sense. So I think a nominal fee of $5 a month, I think, would be showing the regional district that we're trying to recover some cost, I think.
Okay, I got Councilor Kalka and then Councilor Nober. So my only question, Eric, would be, listening from Mr. Wall's side there, so that means the mines wouldn't help contribute to that amount. We'd be claiming that from our residents if we separated on our tax bill. Maybe I misunderstood it that way. But we wouldn't collect that from light industrial, heavy industrial. It would be no business class. It would be just residential. So that was I think that's kind of what Mr. Wall was saying, and that's split up differently from that. So I guess
yeah, I understand that. I understand that, but it's also, I believe, residential is the direct benefitor of it. Yeah.
I got Councilor Nober and then Councilor Howell.
Thank you, Chair. Now, honestly, if it comes down to $5, I would pay $5 to have curbside recycling at my house, easily. But we would be paying for this service twice. We're already going to be paying through the PERD. Like, we are essentially paying for Fort St. John and Dawson Creek and Poos to operate because the cost of recycling is spread across the whole PRRD. So if we're not opting in, we're paying for somebody else's recycling. And if we opt in, well, now we're going to be getting the service, and we're going to be charging residents twice for it. But if we do go down that monthly charge, I think we should cap it at some point. Like, we need to rationalize this to our residents, because I don't feel correct in saying we're going to charge it twice, as little as it is from the PRRD. So we should say it's to cover the capital cost of the building. Right? Like I think that sort of makes sense. It's the idea sort of is with the toll on some new highways that are built, right? You have to pay like the $10. You used to have to pay $10 to ride one of the major highways until the highway was paid off, right? Like that sort of makes sense. I'm still not sold on it because we're already paying for this through the PRRD.
Okay, Councilor Howell.
So this is just a residential program, is it not? Did not Ms. Torville just not say that it's only for residential? So why would we be trying to pass the costs on to industrial tax base, industrial users and business users. If it's only for the residents curbside, you can still take your recycling down here if you're any business,
Right.
if you want. So I don't quite get the reason why we want to pass the costs on to them. I disagree with what Councillor Norbury is saying as well. Is it's not charging them twice. The regional district is paying the costs from Tumbler Ridge to get it all the way to Fort St. John and truck it and do all the processing. What we're charging the residents of Tumbler Ridge is to pay for those bins, get the product down here. $163,000 is our current operating costs down at the transfer station right now. So that's to cover those costs, the cost of the bins, to get the product down there, and then to ship it out. And so to me, I mean, $5 is very little, but it's only for those people on their tax bill that actually get to have a bin, like the people and you can't opt out of it, like the garbage cans in Tumbler Ridge. You can't opt out of the garbage cans in Tumbler Ridge either, right? If you have a residence, you get a garbage can. If you have a residence, you get a blue bin, right? And you get the charge for it.
I believe we had people opt out of receiving the garbage can. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
I know when it first came out, there was people that didn't want the. I mean, they're still paying for it on their taxes, but didn't want the bin at their residence.
Okay.
I believe maybe that's changed now, but I think when it first came out, Council Hall, there was a few that didn't want the bins.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. To me, there's a huge cost of $120,000 for carts, $350,000 the estimate for the building that we got to put in. We've still got to install the baler. We've got to see if that baler we have is any good. You know, it's been stored under a tarp for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. And, you know, there's going to be a ton of costs to get that thing down there, in there, electrical heating. Ongoing costs are going to increase by $1,000 per month, $12,000 a year. So why shouldn't we recover some of those costs instead of continuously eating this stuff? And like, I don't fully understand the argument here either that, you know, that the Peace River Regional District has been charging us as if we were having recycling already. I mean, to me, they haven't. That this is going to be an additional cost to them in 2021 that they don't have in 2020. So to make up in a budget $120,000, they have to increase the taxes. Maybe not just in Tumbler Ridge. Maybe it's all over. Everybody gets the same amount. But correct me if I'm wrong, but do we all pay the same taxes, same mill rate to the PRRD as every other community? Does a house in Tumbler Ridge get charged the same as one in Fort St. John, the same as a one out in Baldonnel, the same as one up by 101? Like, I don't think so, right? So could they not directly transfer this cost of $120,000 down to just the residents of Tumbler Ridge?
Well, see, that's why, I mean, I guess, like listening to Mr. Wall, like 95% of our $120,000 is going to be picked up by other municipalities or electoral areas within
How do we know that? How do we know that? That's what I'm asking.
I'm taking the words of Mr. Wall through Mr. Wall, is what was said. So I got Councillor Kirby, Councillor Kalka, and then Councillor Norbury. Go ahead, Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. We have been talking about this recycling for a long time, and when we were talking about the baler, we chose to go with the baler because we didn't want to put the strain of sorting on staff. Now, if there's concern from council that this program could be up in 2021, maybe it's a thought to rethink going to the sorting method for a trial period before we spend all the money up front on the baler in the building. Just a suggestion.
I don't understand what she said.
Do you want to explain a little bit better when you're talking about, like you're talking about using the same baler we have now, the same building, and having staff sort it down there?
No, I meant no baler, just sorting. Is that an option?
Yeah. Mr. Orwell?
Mr. Wall?
All of the conversations we've had so far have been with bailed. If we went to just bagged, I think, again, we get into having to do the more trucks, more transportation, so the costs would be different. We'd have to talk to the company and see whether or not they'd be willing to accept it for the couple of years that is mentioned. But we'll also have to, it'd have to be done with the understanding that we're going to need more labor, if that's the case, to bag, transport, lift. You know, I think we're, you know, the regional district has a lower diversion rate than what we had thought. So I think our numbers were about 25%, and they're saying no, 18% is a more realistic number. So at our numbers, we were looking at 237 metric tons of garbage diverted, and so with the regional district numbers, that's going to get closer to 200. So you've got to kind of think that we'd be, you know, hand bagging, carrying, and transporting 200 metric tons of recycled material a year. That's gonna it's gonna increase the labor costs. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that that's the operational constraints we would have.
So Councillor Cal, Councillor Norbury. So I guess my question would be, you know, we talked about $5 a month. That's the amount that was thrown out by Mayor Bertrand and Councillor Kirby. I mean, I'm hoping we're not looking at doing a monthly fee. Maybe we just do a one-time payment on your taxes, $60. I'm not sure if that's easier on staff. I know what Mr. Wall was saying about, you know, once you take that amount out of the mill rate, then it's only charged. But is there somewhere how we can do that in our tax line? Mr. Wall?
Mr. Wall?
So you want to know, just so you want to know, rather than a monthly charge, could we put a yearly charge onto people's taxes for the service?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that easier on staff?
Yes, because we don't send out monthly tax bills.
That's my question. Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. Because we were having conversations again about the recycling program being just a general operating cost for the PRRD, because there's comments by Councillor Howell, if you feel that that's not correct.
I just don't know.
Yeah, so and from what it sounded like from Mayor Bertrand and Mr. Wall is that the recycling program is just a set cost for the PRRD, and all of the communities have to pay for that. So essentially, it's just this is the cost of running the PRRD. Everyone who's a part of it has to pay that cost. So to me, that's why my rationale is, so we're already paying for this because this is just a cost for running the PRRD, and we get taxed for that already. Am I correct in that assumption?
Well, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Before we install or implement recycling in Tumbler Ridge, if Dawes Creek came on side and it was $200,000 2 years ago, we would have paid a share of that $200,000 through our PRD taxes. That would have been added PRD wide through Chatwin, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, we would have helped pay for a very small piece of other municipalities, I would think. Makes sense, Councillor Howell?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
Okay. Any more debate? Councillor James.
Thank you, Acting Chair. Just a clarification, is Chetwynd under the district of Chetwynd under the Peace River Regional District? And if so, they're obviously paying into the regional district for the recycling program, and they're doing it on their own. And whatever company they are, why don't we just bail our stuff, ship it to Chetwynd, and have them deal with it? Is that an option?
Yeah, you know, it's a private business or organization in Chetwynd. I'm not sure how it's collected there. I'm not sure if it's through Blue Bag or if it's bailed. I'm not sure. We could have staff reach out. I don't know that question, but they would be part of PRD, and they would be paying for, you know, if we're opting into this program, they would pay part of that, and so would they have paid for other municipalities. Councillor Howell?
Yeah, and to echo what he says, there is, if like Chetwynd is only diverting 1% of their garbage through this program that they have or whatever, and it's a private company doing it. I think we absolutely owe it to our residents to have that conversation, say, is there an opportunity to make money off of this first off? And that's what my thought was, is that if the PRRD is somehow going to increase the tax rate or the mill rate in Tumbler Ridge to collect another $120,000, which it sounds like to me that they're not. Now you guys are saying that they won't do that. You won't see that increase on our taxes. Is that instead of us, again, giving that money to the PRAD to take care of a recycling program for us, that we may be able to just redirect that $120,000 ourselves into a company like this company in Chetwynd, where we bag it, bail it, put it all together, say, you guys want it, come get it, whatever, we get $50 a bale or whatever. Like, if that option is out there, we should at least investigate it to see if that might be a better option for us. I don't know. If somebody's turning a buck at it in Chetwynd, why could they not turn a buck at it in Tumbler Ridge?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't understand. I don't know how Chetwynd's doing it. I just know they are. I know from a friend that owns a building there how they do with their cardboard. So I got Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So when do we have to make a final decision on this? I know that we have said yes to the PRRD. What's our next step?
Good day. Ms. Doyle.
So Deputy Mayor and Council, this project has already been approved. It's on your approved list. So whatever direction you need to bring forward as to how you want to proceed with this, we'll probably need to do it kind of soon because it's going to be on your on the 20th agenda for approval for the tax, the budgets and the tax rates.
Did you hear that, Council Kirby?
Yep.
Council? If it's something we want to be asking staff to reach out to Chatwin just to get some info, tonight would be the night, Councillor.
So I would like that information.
Put a motion on the floor.
Am I allowed to put a motion on the floor?
Yeah, we're in that topic.
Okay, well, I'd like put a motion on the floor that we ask staff to reach out to the District of Chetwynd or the recycling contractor who's in Chetwynd to find out how they are doing their recycling and what the costs are, and yeah, something along those lines.
Second, Councillor Rajewski. Is that clear enough for staff? Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. I think we've gone over this information time and time again. I think regardless of what Chetwynd is doing, I think we're set up to just move forward like we've been talking about and move to a fee of $5 and go on with the building and the baler and TR. That's my opinion.
Okay, I got Mayor Bertrand and Councillor Howe.
Yeah, just to reference Chetwynd, from what I heard last, I don't believe that program or that company is going to continue in the near future. I think they're calling her quits soon, but I would definitely like that information as well. Thank you for making that motion in favor of that. And because I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but as far as I understood, that company did the curbside for the District of Chetwynd, and then I believe the Recycle It company in Fort St. John came and picked that material up from Chetwynd. So, but I would like to get clarified through another report. Thanks.
Councillor Howe?
Well, like Councillor Kirby says, we've gone over and over and over in this. Well, this is the first time I've heard anything about the District of Chetwynd, how they are doing it. And if we don't have the information, we haven't gone over and over and over it. And our budget isn't approved yet. This is a huge cost still that we don't have to approve in our budget, that we can't go forward with it. So it's not a done deal yet. It's very, very close, but it's not a done deal. Until we get the right answers, we shouldn't be rushing ahead on it. We rushed ahead with recycling and bought a baler, and it didn't work out very good for us. So until we have all our ducks in a row and our questions answered, I don't understand why we need to rush in and say, yeah, it's approved. This budget is approved already. Budget is not approved yet. So.
Let me ask staff, through Mr. Orwell, did we ever reach out to Chetwynd? Did we ever, on staff side of themselves, did they reach out personally?
I'm not able to answer that, Deputy Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Wall,
I'll be up to you.
Yeah, we met with Chetwynd, we talked to them. Their the operation in Chetwynd and why it's at 1% diversion is this was more of, you never want to call it a hobby because I don't think a business can ever be a hobby, but it was never meant to be the scale of curbside that we are envisioning in Tumbler Ridge. And as Mayor Bertrand alluded to, it wasn't a system that would be replicated, and it was something that was going to be shut down in the near future as well. So what their costs were and how they were doing it exactly, we can find out. I don't think that'll be too difficult.
Any more discussion?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm thinking if there was money to be made in this recycling business, there'd be a lot of people knocking on our door. I don't think that's happening. I think a recycling business is fairly tough. I think it's borderline, if it even makes a profit. So I doubt very much that Chetwynd is going to be something that we're going to benefit from.
Yeah, and if you had to outlay the capital that the District of Tumbler Ridge is going to outlay right now, I agree with you. If you had to go buy a baler, put a $350,000 building in, buy $120,000 in carts, spend $1 million. But what we're saying is we're going to do all of that for you, and we're going to produce a product. If you can take it and go make money on it, just so we don't have to transport it out of Tumbler Ridge, that's what I'm saying is a possibility. Maybe this company from Chetwynd can make money with it. Maybe it is. I don't know.
We'll see.
They're going to transport our product all the way from here to some place in Fort St. John, and somebody's going to make $1 off of it. Right?
Unless they're getting subsidized.
I guess.
Councilor.
Yeah, I think it's just to clarify that we're not doing anything. We're just going to bail it, and somebody's going to pick it up, right? You know, if there's already somebody who's there willing to do this for us, and it's going to be subsidized by somebody else, yeah, I don't know why we're trying to pump the brakes on this thing. It's already we're already getting a sweet deal.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor Bertrand.
I just wanted to add to, I think it might be beneficial to get a copy of the Recycle It contract with the company in Fort St. John, just to go over all the details on that as well, just so we have a clear understanding. And I can look for that through PRD as well.
Okay. Councilor Hull.
Can I ask a question to Councilor Kirby or Mayor Bertrand to ask specifically at their next meeting? And the question is will our mill rate increase in Tumbler Ridge? Will it or will it not increase in Tumbler Ridge with the increase in recycling? That's all I want to know.
You got that, Mayor Bertrand?
Sure do, yep.
Okay, I'm going to call the question on the motion that's on the floor. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Carried. (8.2) Northern Rockies Worm Farm Composting. Is that being, Councilor Hull?
So before you move on,
My apologies.
did we come up with a consensus of if we are going to charge for the recycling? Is there a consensus from council? Like, should we
Somebody wants to put a motion on the floor.
Well, it's not that I want to put a motion on the floor right away. I mean, I just don't want to lose the opportunity that if we can charge for the bins, that this is our last opportunity to do that.
I wouldn't think so. I think when that report would come back, that we just ask staff, because that'll be another, you know, whether it be at P&P or it'll be at a regular meeting, I would think then you can still have time to debate a costing on curbside, or we can do that now and be, I'm gonna say ahead of it. I mean, I'm just gonna say that, you know, we don't know the information we're gonna receive from Chapman, but maybe it's not gonna change. Maybe it's still a better deal through with the PRD on board and sending it into FSJ. But we can also discuss that right now as we're on the item. That's right.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, I know we talked about collecting or buying, I think it's 13,000 or 1,300 carts, a little less than $100 a cart. Is that what the value of them are or something like that? So, and I've seen the garbage cans over at the public works. There's a bunch of spare ones, the extra ones. So do we have an idea of how many carts we expect to be collecting per week? Because that would be, to me, how you could probably start figuring out what the rate would be. If we're collecting 1,000 per week, or we're collecting 1,200 per week, that makes a big difference between, is it $5 or is it $10 that we're going to be charging the residents per month? And is it a pickup every second week is what we're going to stick with, or is it going to be something different along those lines?
I think when we discussed it, and maybe that has been put through, right? To us, Ms. Torval, but I thought we went bi-weekly. Garbage 1 week and recycle the following week, and that way it doesn't change staffing capacity in regards to another vehicle and more staff.
So that number of how many residents we expect to charge would be very good to have.
Do you have the number of cans? Because I know when we did the garbage carts, there were extra orders for, you know, one damage, or some people wanted more than one of the residents. Do we know exactly how many would be distributed in the municipality if this was to go on tomorrow?
Well, it would probably be the same as the garbage solid waste cans, but I don't have that number. Mr. Wall, do you have the number?
Yeah, 1,300 carts.
1,300?
So that's how many we're purchasing. I understand that, but is that how many we expect to deliver to the residents?
No, there would be extra.
So 1,000, 1,200?
I don't know.
It's hard to say, right? Okay. if you did take the number 1,200 or carts, $5 a cart, $6,000 a month. So that gives you an idea of what $72,000 a year that you would collect from carts at $5 Tumbler Ridge. And you know, our tipping fees are $52,000 a year right now before we decrease them with taxes, or sorry, with diverting recycling. So I mean, that $5 would cover all of our tipping fees, and would be, in my mind, a good way to start, and cover some of the costs of the cans, because I mean, at some point they depreciate as well. And we've talked lots and lots and lots about having enough money put aside for our depreciation, and that we're not going to have enough in years to come, and that debate has happened lots here in council. So for us not to be charging some money for those cans and for this service, I think is doing us a disservice in our asset management. So I think we absolutely have to be charging a bit for them. I'm leaning a little higher than $5 a month. I'm leaning a little higher, like 10.
Councilor Milbury?
Thank you. So my issue with charging is that we don't charge for just regular garbage pickup. Like it's just a cost to the municipality, right? And if we're talking about cost recovery, we don't need a cost recovery on this. I mean, it was mentioned many times that we are operating at a surplus budget. So why should we add on an extra cost to our residents if they're essentially it's just one service replacing the other? Like, yes, we have to purchase the bins, but you know, we definitely have the funds to support them. And I think our residents, they want this, and they and I think that is the great part about Tumbler Ridge, is that a lot of our services are subsidized by the other tax classes, and that's the purpose of having those other tax classes, that they can help subsidize things, just like they subsidize our pool, our hockey rink, because their employees utilize those services as well, right? So I understand if we want to be looking at a $5 fee. I just think we don't need to, so then why should we?
Councillor Lehman and Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We do pay for garbage pickup. It's in our taxes. And I think $5 a month is not too much to ask, because not only do we have to pay for the bins, we have to pay for the building, the baler that's already purchased, but you're looking at $500,000. So to just not charge and just let it go, and then you got to maintain that building too. So I think charging $5 a month for that is not too much. I'm in favor of charging at least $5.
Councillor Kirby and then Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm in favor of charging the $5 a month or $60 a year as well. I think it puts some ownership on the resident when they're paying to have this service, that they're actually going to properly do the recycling. I'm gonna think that we're gonna have extra time on our bylaw officer enforcing curbside. There could be fines. Curbside is gonna take a little bit of educating the community for sure, and I think we need to have some cost recovery on that alone. That's it. Thanks.
Councillor Howe.
Yeah, and like our current cost of recycling in the district of Tumbler Ridge is $163,000 a year. And we recycle 59 tons in Tumbler Ridge right now for $163,000 a year. So if we just said, you know what, we don't want to do any recycling in Tumbler Ridge, just throw it all in the garbage can, our tipping fees would go up to less than $60,000 a year. So we, you know, if we're talking dollars here, and we didn't want to do any recycling, we could save $163,000 a year right off the get-go and not do any recycling. So we already pay a huge amount with some intention that we're going to recover some of that money back somewhere along the lines. And I think it's you know, we have to think about the depreciation of that building and setting money aside to pay for that building, the baler, all that stuff is going to, those assets are going to depreciate. I'm fearful that $5 is not enough to pay for the depreciation on a $1 million recycling program, plus the ongoing utility costs. And you said it yourself, Councilor Norbury, you know, you'd have no problem paying $5 for this added service in Tumbler Ridge. As well, I think other residents would say the same thing. Wow, it's only costing us $5 to do this. It'll be hard to explain it to people when you meet them on the street how we're doing recycling for only $5 a month. And to me, I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to throw extra money away for asset management to cover the entire recycling and waste management program.
Okay, I got Councilor Kirby, then Councilor Noberry.
Oh, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Will actually made the comment I wanted to make, but also at this moment, have we ever been fined for having recyclables in our garbage?
I don't believe so, Mr. Orwell.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't think we have, Councilor Kirby. Not yet.
Okay, thank.
Okay, I got Councilor Noberry.
All right, so I think we're sort of looking, we don't want to make a decision tonight, right? So I think we should just throw a motion out there that, no? Well, I think we should make a motion that the District of Tumbler Ridge adds $60 per year to the residential taxes for the cost associated with curbside recycling.
Second. Councilor Lehman. Discussion. Councilor Howe.
Just trying to do some quick numbers in my head here to think about what the cost would be to redo the building in 20 years and redo a baler and to try to figure out what that number would be, and if we could get it all from recycling. I think like $72,000 a year. There is going to be some additional costs with, you know, sorting or what Councillor Kirby was saying with enforcement, but I'm just trying to think if that's enough. $5 is enough. That's why I want to throw it around. People thought a little bit more.
Okay, Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Chair. Just to put this into perspective, when we were going over our residential tax rates and we were just trying to discuss a 4% raise, that's what we're talking about here. For $60 a year extra, it would have been about that on our tax rates that we didn't even go forward with, so, or we did. So if that could be the other option there, is, you know, that's a comparative anyways, is another 4% increase just to have recycling. So.
Councilor Noberry.
Thank you. You know, I put the motion on the floor because I think we should be debating something. Right? Like we should be focused on our conversation. I personally am against it. Right? And really good point. We're essentially adding 4%. But if we're saying we're going to get in $60,000 a year, the building is going to cost us $350,000. Now these buildings, if we take our buildings as an example, how long they last for? 30 years. Right? So we would only need 30 years to get that. Right? So if we would only need $3,500 a year. No, yeah. Over the course. Oh no, getting lost in the numbers. About $10,000 a year for the next 30 years, you get $300,000, right? So if we're looking at a cost recovery for the building itself, we'd only need 1/6 of that. So we'd only need to charge somebody, instead of $5, we need to charge them 75 cents a month. If we're looking at just a asset management of the building, again, you don't need a massive amount of money to put aside for a $350,000 building when you're looking over 30 years.
Any more debate? Councilor Howe?
Yeah, I'm not just thinking about the building. I'm thinking about the depreciation on the carts, the depreciation on the baler, the boiler, and then the ongoing utility costs of at least $1,000 a month, which is our estimate at this time. And potentially there may be some additional costs that we're not aware of. I mean, they take the garbage truck, they go out, they collect all this disgusting garbage and dump it in on a Monday, and if Tuesday's recycling day, do they not have to go and wash the garbage truck out, and somebody's got to get inside there with a pressure washer and spray it down? At least, so there has to be some additional costs there. That's why I'm trying to think, what is the total amount of depreciation that we get close to getting? That's why I think it should be a little higher than $5, but I just not quite there yet.
Okay. Staff, Mr. Orwell.
Mr. Wall would like to.
So, Councillor, you seem to be debating whether or not you want to pay for this. You're going to pay for it. Like, one way or another, you have to pay for it, right? And with asset management, you're going to do that. I would say if you want to do it through a fee, then just ask staff to create a fee for you that can cover the costs. You can do the asset management and all those sorts of things. It's not difficult for us to do because we have the cost of life expectancy and those sorts of things. So right now, the debate that I've watched has kind of been, well, should we do it through a fee, and if we don't do it for a fee, we're not paying for it at all? That's not the case. Whether you do it through the fee or through the mill rate, it's gonna be paid for. And council may decide whether you want it done through a fee or you want it done through the mill rate, and then we can come back as staff and say, this is what it's going to be. So again, if you want that information, and that goes back to the point I made from at the start. If you're not going to do total cost recovery through this fee structure, I'm not sure what the point of doing it through the fee structure is. So if you want total cost recovery through the fee structure, just ask administration to give you what that cost will be. You can stick it onto the residential taxes, and then when you look next year, when you go to set the tax rate, you go, well, here's the overall tax burden of the home, here's coming from the mill rates, here's it coming from the charges. And this is the other part of I mentioned there's two reasons municipalities go to charges, and I didn't say the second one. The second one, reason municipalities go to charges, it helps them hide the fact that they're doing tax increases. You know, municipalities can go to their residents and say, we haven't increased your taxes, the mill rate's the same, yeah, but your garbage fee went up by 10%, your water fee went up by 10%, and all those sorts of things, right? So you can do it that way. You can go out next year and say, hey, we haven't increased your mill rate, but here's an extra $200 on your taxes in order to pay for the recycling. That's where another reason why municipalities insert those types of fees, so that you can do those sorts of things.
Good idea.
Clarity? It's council taking. You know, I guess, discussion, Mr. Wall mentioned it, like, are we looking for us to recover all the costs under asset management? And if we are, we better off just ask for a report instead of trying to vote a $5 fee, so we actually know what that amount would be. Maybe it's $9 over a month, over the year. I don't know, but is that better than just trying to set a fee at $5? I guess it's up to you guys. Councillor Al.
Yeah, and I think that's good. It's just, what are the metrics that staff includes in it? Like, you know, something else I was just thinking about is the garbage truck. Well, yeah, we've already purchased the garbage truck. It's on, you know, but we have an ability now. 50% of the use of the garbage truck is going to be for recycling. So could we take 50% of the depreciation value of the garbage truck and also add that? Like, what are the metrics that they're going to use to do it? I mean, that would be, you know.
I would think what we do here is if we're not happy with the motion on the floor, we defeat it. Put another motion on the floor asking for that and asking for the full cost under asset management. And I would think that would be the garbage truck, whatever they're using to collect recycle. Like you mentioned, 50% of that truck should be reclaimed. If that's what we're looking for, is on that amount. I'm not saying it's going to go through until the amount's read, but then everybody has it in front of them. Everybody knows what the cost actually would be to cover the asset management and recycling. If that's what we're looking at doing instead of a small abdominal fee. Rest of the council. Okay. Call the question. All in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
All opposed? Defeated.
Opposed.
Anybody like to try their hands at that motion? Councilor Lehman.
I would like staff to come up with a report on the cost recovery for the recycling and, yeah, what it would amount to, I guess, through asset management.
Okay with it? Okay. Seconder? Councillor Howe? Discussion. Councillor Majinski, sir.
Thank you, Acting Chair. If we're talking about cost recovery on this, what would the time frame on that be? Would that be within 5 years, 10 years, 30 years on everything? So
again, I think that's a staff report that comes in. It says that the truck is good for 22 years. Garbage cans are going to last 15 years, and that's they already have the files. It's let them do their job and come back with a number, and we'll have that number. And if we're not happy that it's going to be $42.50 a year, we can change it. Like, you know, I understand where Councilor Norbury is coming from, and I'm not sure about the $5 things, but maybe it's not even that much. At least have the report, and then we can argue those numbers or debate those numbers from us. Councilor Norbury.
I'd like to clarify. I just put the motion out there so we can make a decision. Right?
I agree.
I was very clear. I was very clear up front that I don't believe this is something that we should be adding on a fee or a cost.
Yep. I agree. I asked for a motion at the beginning. I'd rather debate a motion as well. Just nicer, but it's hard sometimes to try and. I get where everybody comes from, and I know I've done it the same thing. So, any discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're gonna move on to the Northern Rockies worm farm composting. Mayor Bertrand, that's the one you want moved to the next meeting?
Yes, please. Information came in late.
Okay. Okay, economic development and greenhouse. Council Kirby brought this forward, right?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Yeah, this was, something I would...
Council Kirby, before you get going on it, I just need to clarify something with you. Can you just give me an overview of what you're looking for? Are you looking for a greenhouse to grow fruits and veggies and stuff?
Well, it came up in one council meeting on just looking at different, things that we can do in the community, and we had kind of touched base on it. I think there's a lot of chatter everywhere about sustainable food production and
okay, hang on a second. So if you're talking about growing food, that's why I asked that question, because I'm going to excuse myself, because I do believe I would be in a conflict.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll have Councillor Howell chair the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Kirby, Councillor Krakauka has left the room. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This topic was more for a strategic planning session, so I don't have a lot of information to present to council tonight. It's more of an idea. Just kind of with sustainable food production and consumption is kind of becoming an issue everywhere. And I think our community has a great option to expand from our community gardens into like greenhouse vegetables. And just a topic for discussion or maybe future plans. I've talked a little bit with Mr. Dealey at the high school, and he's, of course, just with his fish farm and stuff, he's got a lot of good ideas on how we could grow vegetables here year round using different options. One was shipping containers. And, we have good partners in the community with, if we need wood heat through the community forest, even coal. But this is just a very early stage, and I don't really have a lot of information because there's so much information out there around starting projects like this.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to add? So is this something you'd like to add to our strategic planning meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Bertrand, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add, I think that's a great idea, Councillor Kirby. Food sustainability has actually been included in a lot of municipalities down to the south, right in their OCPs. A lot of communities in the Cariboo have looked at food sustainability as a priority. And obviously in times like these, it begs the question of our food sustainability in Tumbler Ridge. In my opinion, if we lose a highway, we're in big trouble. And so I do like this idea. I think it's an opportunity to possibly partner up with Twin Sisters, possibly in West Moberly. We've spoken to them about possibly expanding their facility or maybe a partnership on that sense. But the only hesitancy I have with this is it is an increase in service, so it would be an increase in cost for the district. So I'm not sure if right now is a great time to be increasing services, but just with the economic forecasts. But I do like the idea, and I think council does need to have the idea of food sustainability in the back of their minds for our community, because we don't have a lot of it, to be honest with you.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Acting Chair. So I think when we're looking at the, Mayor Bertrand, you brought up the economic future, the climate moving into the future. And I think that if we are looking at how we're going to get through any issues in in our economy moving forward, we're going to have to come up with ideas to keep people busy, essentially, right? Like when times go bad, we need to increase our services, and maybe this is a way that we can put people to work building this building this greenhouse, or getting people out there growing their own food, or growing the food for the food bank or something. So I think we absolutely should look at it further. And food instability is definitely a real concern for a lot of people.
Anything else from council? On the phone?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Norbury, but I disagree in the fact that when times are tough, communities need to increase their services. For example, when mines went down, we took a serious hit to our tax base, and I don't believe we increased our services to the point of having to increase our municipal taxes. So I disagree on that sense, but I would like to more so work with a nonprofit or a society in this sense, or even West Moberly. I'm not sold on the fact that this should be district run and district funded is my hesitancy. So.
Go ahead, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Acting Chair. Mayor Bertrand, I know as somebody who works with many nonprofits that in fact the service required by these nonprofits had to be increased. The usage of these services went up because people needed them more in the time of recessions.
So I've just got one thing I'd like to add to it. My concern lies with the District of Tumbler Ridge being perceived as competing with business. So we're going to potentially, the idea here is to build our own fruits and vegetables and compete with the one local grocery store we have in the community for selling carrots and turnips and potatoes or whatever. Like, to me, we go and do that. We subsidize it through people's tax dollars so that we create this food and then sell it back to people, or do we give it to people, or do we give it to the grocery store so they can sell it? The concept behind it lacks a little bit for me. Again, if this is a business that can make money, if somebody wanted to come in and start a greenhouse in Tumbler Ridge and they needed us to get them a piece of land or help them get some fuel from the community forest to heat it, I would be all for something like that, trying to help somebody along to create business in Tumbler Ridge. Maybe if I could see a little more information on the actual business side of how this would work, I would be in favor. I would be more in favor if Twin Sisters were coming in doing something like this, looking for council support. But for us as a council to try to take something like this on, a little unsure how that would work. Go ahead, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Chair. And from my perspective, I don't think this should be a profit-gaining venture. I see it something similar to what's already happening with the community gardens, right? Like, people are up there, they apply, they get their plots, they grow their fruits and vegetables. For my vote moving forward, that's something similar to that. There might be a capital cost of building a greenhouse. It's just a bunch of clear lino and some 2x4s, and people are able to go in there and grow their own vegetables. I'm not interested in creating a business to compete with local business, but if we're concerned about people growing their own food, we're going to have to tell people that they can't have their own gardens. We have to tear up the community gardens. I mean, we're just giving people an opportunity to add to their own fate, right? Create their own food, right? I have a garden, right? Am I competing with the local grocery store? Maybe.
Yeah. So like, go ahead if you're done there. Yeah, and I have a garden as well at home, and it's my choice. What I'm saying is the taxpayer shouldn't have to foot that bill to compete against that business, right? So like, what we're saying is we're going to outlay taxpayers' dollars to create a greenhouse that we're then going to have to heat, and we're going to have to maintain and do all the work that comes along with it, then plant gardens and get soil and use a tractor and all the stuff that comes along with it. on the backs of the taxpayers, while we've got a business in town that's, you know, his produce aisles go down. He sells less product because we got more of it produced in town, and we all can produce vegetables if we want in our backyards, we build our own greenhouses, and that to me is fine. That's not us competing with business. That's somebody trying to save $1 on themselves. But it's not the district of Tumbler Ridge paying for their greenhouse or paying for their soil or their seeds or anything along those lines. Go ahead, Councillor Norwood.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, when we're talking about taxpayers' dollars, where's the taxpayers' dollars going? It's not. We're just not, you know, pouring it onto the ground. We're creating jobs for people, right? Like we'd be potentially building this greenhouse, but while we're doing it, we're adding to the economy because we're paying somebody to do it. That person's taking in that wage. They're taking it to their families. They're spending it in the community, right? Like it isn't just, oh, we're spending taxpayer dollars and it just disappears. That goes into the people that are creating this, and it's an opportunity for us to help our local people and our economy. That's sort of the way that I'm seeing it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mayor Bertrand.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I like that idea of the U-Grow situation. It would certainly not be a profitable venture, but to create space for people to grow their own foods. Topsoil is a commodity in Tumbler Ridge. There isn't a lot around. I like that idea for the U-Grow part of it.
Okay. Anything else? So, Mayor Bertrand, will you add this to our strategic planning meeting session for when we have it?
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk more about it then. And again, it is an opportunity for a business to come into town, and maybe we could explore that opportunity as well.
Okay, thanks. Anything else, guys? Okay. We're on now.
COVID-19 financial relief for residents. Council discussion. Councilor Norberg.
I'll lead us off because the last time we had this discussion, I threw out a couple of ideas, and I'm kind of curious what other people have to think about it. You know, one idea was we can provide some food security, what we're talking about, to our residents that have been hit by COVID-19, whether through loss of job or reduction of wages. And the reason why I think we should be discussing this is because it is a way to lower our residents' lower their monthly cost, right? So essentially, we would commit to a certain amount of meals, right? Like if we're looking at $500,000, what we're looking at cutting out of our residential tax base, we could provide 25,000 meals for our community if these meals were $20 a piece. Right now, we could target it to people that have only been affected by this, so that they can lower their costs of living. Right, like one of my issues with the lowering the taxes was it wasn't targeted, and I don't think it actually adds to people. This is a way that we can actually add to their household, and not just remove a cost. Right, we're actually lowering their cost of living. Yeah, 25,000 meals. We could, that could even be increased if the businesses that we've given a tax cut to are willing to work with us and try and work down those costs. Right, like can we provide meals for $10 a piece to people? That would get us 50,000 meals to the people that have been affected, right? And that directly lowers their cost of living, you know. And then it also adds to our businesses, because then it makes our businesses operate as businesses, right? They would need to have people working to create these meals, to offer, to take in the orders, what have you, right? Like it's a way that we can put money into our community and into our economy. It puts people to work, and it actually adds to people's households, and it lowers their costs. So, yeah, I want to throw that out there. What people think.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not interested in that at all. Personally, I'm not. You know, I'm not sure how many people heard from residents in the last week or so, but I've heard from many. And I still fully support tax reduction. So, rest of council? Councillor Howe?
It's an interesting idea. And again, I prefer government have their hands out of my pockets. I'd rather have the money in my pocket, and I'll decide that if I need a meal, or what's maybe more important to me might be insurance on my vehicle or tires on my truck, rather than, you know, a meal supplement. And that's why I think the money back in a person's pockets, they can decide what they want to do with it. But I will add a bit to that conversation where we had talked about, I as well as Councillor Krakauka, I have heard from quite a few residents that were upset. I had one resident say to me, why did you split your motion up? The motion that I had originally read was a two-part motion that included both residential and business taxes, and I split that up because the mayor asked me to during that meeting, and quite frankly, I had no idea that they both weren't going to pass. I thought we were just going to fly through those, they'd both pass, and so I didn't see any reason by splitting them up. But I certainly see the problem now that we did split them up and one passed and the other didn't. But I have heard an idea, and I'd like to throw this by council as well to chew on, is someone said, well, if you were concerned about the taxes, the tax break going to people who didn't live in Tumbler Ridge, which just for me going on record, I am not concerned about that tax break if it went to somebody who pays taxes in Tumbler Ridge. They may have been somebody who was here for 30 years but had to move away for a job or whatever. I'm not concerned if they get the break. They're adding to our tax base every year and they deserve the break. But if the problem was that we thought some of that money was going to leave town, could we not add the tax break of $50,000 or sorry, $500,000 to residents who apply for the homeowner's grant? If we applied the tax break to those who could come in and present and say, yeah, I need to get the homeowner's grant because I am a homeowner in Tumbler Ridge and I would like to get my grant, then could we not just go, well, fantastic, you also get your share of the taxes back. Here's your $350 in taxes back. So that would be a way to maybe meet halfway between, like say, Councillor Norbury's camp and my camp of the two different ways of doing this. So.
Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. And you know, we're sort of getting into the topic of stimulus, right? When we start talking about giving money to people, homeowner grants, one of the big issues was this doesn't address the people who still contribute to our economy by renting, right? Like, and if we're talking, like, for me, I want to target the people that are actually affected, because I'm not affected. I should pay my taxes. I absolutely should pay my full taxes. It is my duty to add to my community by paying my taxes. And I think there are a lot of people out there that can and should. So that's why I don't think it should be just up to homeowners. It should be people who are affected by this COVID-19 crisis through either loss of wages or loss of job. Right now, I'm not going to lie. I've thought about maybe that's where we should go. Be going down stimulus checks for people who have been affected by COVID-19. If this means that you are a homeowner, you can take that money. You can put it as towards your taxes that we're concerned about. They can put it towards their truck. You know, whatever they need to do it. And I think that is the most far out idea, but I think it's still in the realm of discussion in how it can actually help our entire community. Because there are people like myself that should be adding to the community, and we should be helping others through our taxes.
Mayor Bertrand.
I think this conversation is really important. I'm really happy it's taking place tonight. I do believe council is committed to trying and help our residents during this COVID crisis, and unfortunately the vote last time was split, but I think we can come up with some ideas tonight through discussion that will really help. One possible suggestion would be to create a survey to ask our residents how they've been affected during this time. Have they been laid off? Has their income been affected in any way? And maybe we create a separate grant process to help out for those people in need. It would be targeted, and people would be accountable to show their records. But I think we're in a position where we could create some sort of a grant system to help. Thank you.
Yeah, myself and Councilor Norrie. I guess my only concern there, Mayor Bertrand, would be staffing. You know, I think I won't say we lectured staff at the last meeting. We've asked staff to produce a report on what their plans are and where they're proceeding to. And we could better be treading that carefully, because we're thinking of trying to add grants and other stuff. To me, that's going to add staff time. We're asking the staff to do extra legwork and stuff like that. So to me, we're asking for one report, asking which way they're going and how they're processing their staffing and stuff. And then now we're talking about maybe doing a grant system. To me, that adds a lot of staff time, staff workload. But that's just my opinion. Councilor Norrie.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree that it would add on to staff, but at the same time, we can have a little bit more of an understanding of how this has actually hit us. You know, because I think we got to slow it down a little bit, in that we're just throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks and what'll work, right? Like, it's a lot of knee jerking, right? And by slowing it down, taking a survey, maybe we can get a little more understanding of what's happening, right? Like, maybe my understanding of the situation isn't fully correct, right? And if we can get the survey out quickly, we can have a little more information coming back, because, you know, we have to be mindful of that critical minority that we talk about, and that, you know, we may hear issues from 10 people, but maybe those are the only 10 people that have issue. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely think this is affecting a lot more than 10 people. But maybe we should be making a little bit more of an informed decision, but we still need to have ideas on how we're going to approach the situation.
Councilor Lehman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Cutting residential taxes isn't going to affect everybody. Supporting the food bank, there's people using the food bank that don't need to. So that doesn't help everybody either. That doesn't help the right people. I was not in favor of cutting taxes. I really wasn't in favor of cutting business taxes either. I agreed to it only because I thought maybe it would help. I'm not even sure if those businesses that got a tax break are going to get a tax break, are going to give that break to the people that are either renting their spaces or not. That's something we can't control. And that's going to be something that, again, we're going to have to live with. I mean, maybe the right people aren't getting these breaks or the help that they need, but trying to find that perfect solution is not easy. I don't think it doesn't matter what we're going to come up with. It's not going to solve everybody's problem or help everybody that really needs it. I've been trying to think of ways that, you know, it's going to help the people that really need it. Like you say, bring food to people. Well, that may work, that may not. But I just don't know how the district is supposed to help in this situation. I mean, the federal government is already doing supposedly what they can. The provincial government, we're not sure what they're going to kick in yet. But I don't know. I wish there was a perfect answer, but I don't think there is. And I don't know what we're going to do.
Councilor Norrie.
I fully agree with you, Councilor Lehman. This is, people have been citing this as the world war of our generation. Well, not of our generation, but of the time, right? Like, this is one of the biggest things that we will probably face, because there isn't a blueprint. We can't go and look at what other people have done in the past. There's nothing, we have to set the tone now. And I think there is a little bit of parallels we can draw in from what the federal and provincial government are doing, you know, and maybe we can lean on that. Maybe we can supplement that somehow. You know, to sort of move on from a little bit of a different topic, you know, I think we should be supporting the food bank. You know, I think people are afraid now, and people are using that food bank. I know people that use it regularly, and I think we should add a little bit of buffer to that. You know, I'm sorry, Chair, with your position in the community, but I think that we should make a $50,000 donation, less or more, whatever, a large amount to the food bank, and we do it through a gift certificate to. Yep.
Hey.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
You know where you're going.
But you can stay till me say it and then pop out, right?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't even
Okay,
want to be
fair
part of that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, continue on.
Okay, thank you. And I think it should be in the means of a Shop Easy gift certificate, right? Like, this is a way that we can take money, we can help the needy, and we can put it directly into our economy, right? We help support a local business, which we want to try and do, but we're not supporting a local business by giving them, here's a bunch of money. It's keeping business doing what business should do, and that's an exchange of goods and services for money, and it goes into the local food bank, because I think the food bank could probably use some extra funds at this time.
Okay. Councillor Medzinski.
Thank you, Acting Chair. So if we do a proposed gift certificate for our local grocery store, would a proof of EI slip or a CERB saying that they had to do a claim for, the loss of their work and due to the COVID-19, would that be something that we could do in conjunction so that people aren't just abusing and getting these gift certificates to the local grocery store?
Yeah, so my expectation is that we wouldn't micromanage the food bank at all. This would be all done through the food bank that's there now, right? And whatever restrictions that they have, they would just keep doing. But this is just a boost to them that they can offer more services to people. Because I think something needs to be done pretty quick, right? Like, there are people that are already saying, like, I've lost my job. I don't know where, like, they have that food insecurity is what we're talking about, right? And, maybe this is just something that's, and maybe this is just another knee-jerk reaction, but I think this is a way that we can directly help people in multiple ways, in that we can add to their food security, and then we can help out local business in turn, local people.
I'm not comfortable with it. I understand the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's a saying I used to use all the time, but these are good intentions. I'm not comfortable with the optics of what we're talking about, even with Councillor Krakauka out of the room. There are other businesses in Tumbler Ridge that could use a boost, and as well, not just our grocery store. I think a Home Hardware, Northern Metallic and places like that, and I'm just not real comfortable with this type of a conversation around, telling the food bank to get the food from here and move the food there. And it's just, the optics of it don't look good when we have Councillor Krakauka in the position that he is. So go ahead, Councillor Norberg.
Thank you. And I would go to any resident that questioned us. Like, how can you do this? He's on council. Well, one, he's out of the room, and two, are you that much against our local grocery store is already doing so much for our community that you're against helping out the food bank? I'd be willing to have that conversation with any resident. It's not just about, in my opinion, we're not just giving the money to the owner. Mm-hmm. We're giving it to the business, which in turn provides jobs for his employees, right? And in turn, I just see it as like a win-win. Right? I understand. We're just throwing ideas out here. You're trying to get the conversation going, right? And I'm just trying to get ideas around the table on what we can actually do to help people.
Okay. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. Most communities around us have cut their business or cut residential taxes, that they didn't do any increases. That was what they did. They deferred the penalties for late payments on taxes. There was canceling business license fees. Those were kind of what most communities are doing. We went over and above that by taking away or canceling our business licenses 100%. I think at this point we're still too early to be making these calls. I'm against Councillor Norby's suggestion about the vouchers. I would say that council could possibly put a contingency fund together that we can draw on later when we have more information. We could also start a COVID-19 Mayor's Task Force where we are looking at our community leaders, people that can get the information to us that know their groups, whether it be seniors, the food bank, just all the organizations that, that we help out and throughout the year. I think that's a better plan than just throwing money out that we're not really sure if that's where it's needed.
Okay. Mayor Bertrand, did you have something there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, as far as Councillor Norbury's suggestion about the food bank, I think strictly to the food bank would be the only way. I don't think we could include the grocery store in that scenario due to conflict, but I like Councillor Kirby's suggestion about the task force idea to try and gather more information and possibly put aside a reserve to help when we do get all the information. I think that's a great idea. It gives us a bit more flexibility, but also gives us the opportunity to gather more information. Yeah, I would be in favor of that.
Councillor Norbury, Councillor Lehman, and then myself.
My suggestion is that if we're moving from the food bank idea, maybe we should invite Daryl back in. Councillor, sorry.
Do you have anything else on the food bank there?
No.
Anybody on the line?
No.
I got Norbury, Lehman, and Howe.
Okay, Councilor Norbury.
Sorry about that, Chair. So I think Councillor Kirby hit on something that I think we should be looking into, and that's how we can offer deferments on residential taxes. I think that, thank you, Ms. Torval, for sending out this information, and that the issue with deferments is that people pay a penalty, right? And we need to figure out a way to waive that. I think we we'll need to lobby someone and send out a letter to a department in the government. I think we should absolutely do that in these times, if not an extension for people. How could we go about doing that?
Well, I know for a fact we already gave a motion was already for staff to send a letter asking that question, how to defer the payments from July 1st to later in the fall with no penalty. I know it's come up on numerous conference calls with Minister Robson. So I don't think staff's heard back from the letter. I know the last conference call last Thursday, they still had no update, and many municipalities were asking that question over and over and over again.
Mr. Wall.
Yeah, that's correct. We're still waiting on the response back. We do have, there may be an opportunity under sections 235 and 236 of the community charter to make delays, but we're trying to find out. We've had a request go in, and it's actually being led by Blair in Dawson Creek. The CAOs all had a meeting last week, and he's following up on this with his contact in the ministry to get clarification. Sections 235 and 236 talk about the ability for municipalities to have different penalty schemes and different tax collection dates. But the wording of the sections are not clear on whether that allows you to set penalties that are lower than the 10% and push the date out further, or if that just becomes the minimum floor. And it's confusing to us that if it does allow us to set dates later out and have a lower penalty, why the province just hasn't told us that from the beginning. So there may be some hope in that that's already established in the community charter, but we need to get some more clarification on it. If not, what it would be is that those regulations put in by the province can't be changed. You have to have the taxes in by those dates, and the penalty needs to be at least 10%. So we're waiting to see what the options are, and I would agree with Councillor Krikoka. A lot of communities have been asking that question, but so council's aware, they not every community has been asking that question, trying to get the dates pushed off. There are a lot of communities that if that date gets pushed off, they're gonna need to borrow money in order to make payroll. So there's a lot of communities who are talking in the provinces you're saying don't do this as well. So it'll be interesting to see where the province lands on that, or if they just say, well, we didn't have the time to get it done, sorry, maybe next year.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Lehman and Councillor Howe.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kirby, I think, had probably a good idea. We're spinning our wheels here, trying to come up with an idea. I don't think we're going to get anywhere. We can bat this thing around all night. Nobody's going to have the perfect answer. I think maybe, I don't know if a task force is going to accomplish anything, but at least we'll get some more information. Maybe some input. Maybe somebody out there has a good idea. I don't know. But I don't think we're going to be coming up with anything concrete at this meeting tonight. So maybe just wait and see if somebody has a better idea. Form a task force. Find out what the hell's going on. Find out what people want or what they think.
Councillor Howe?
Yeah, it's one point I wanted to touch on is I have a real concern about mental health in Tumbler Ridge in the next few months. We've had some issues with mental health here, and some of the stuff we've touched on doesn't really go to the core of helping anybody with mental health issues in Tumbler Ridge. Recently, the province announced that we could no longer recreate within our provincial parks or our rec sites, recreation camping sites, until the beginning of June. I have a real problem with that. I got to be honest. I think that I know it's tough to be the first one to go out on a limb and say stuff like this, but I think it's over the top. I think that the provincial government has gone a little bit above and beyond of what they need to do to try to protect people. I think that we are in a region where there's absolutely nothing wrong with us going out and camping in our own area. And if that's what they have to do to police it or change it, it's something that I'd like to discuss in council to see if we can somehow get a consensus here if we think that's over the top, and send a letter in to the provincial government to say, hey, you know, like, it may be needed in your region or your area, but there's other ways that we can deal with it. The concern I have is we have 28 people in Northern Health that have had at some point COVID-19. How many people are we going to lose to, you know, suicides or alcoholism or other things if they have nothing to do? You're not allowed to go outside. You can't go hunting. You can't go fishing. You can't go to any of these areas and use your boat. You can't go tubing. All these things are going to be taken away, and I just want to have a flavor of council. What do you guys think about that? You know, is this over the top, or am I going out on a limb on myself here and wanting some type of a letter to the provincial government to say we're in a different situation up here? Locally, we should be allowed to recreate in the area we live in. That's why I moved here. That's why I live here. What do you guys think?
Councillor Howe, or Councillor Norbury, sorry.
We're sitting next to each other, count over, it's the same. To be honest with you, Councillor Howe, I am leaning in the agreement that I think maybe the provincial government is enforcing too much restrictions on people. But I think it is important to put it into context that it's just their provincial parks. Right? Like, we can still go out hunting in non-provincial parks. We can still go out camping in areas that aren't provincial. Right? And to play the opposite side here, I mean, when the provincial government is mandating these things, they're looking at a higher perspective than we see, right? Like, maybe there are reasons why they're doing these things, right? And it's looking at what other areas are doing in response to the pandemic, is that the freedom was all the way there, right? Like, everybody could do whatever they wanted, it's fine, right? Well, people started getting sick. People started getting infected at a higher rate. So they added in a little more restriction, right? No traveling, no flying out of the country. Well, it keeps going up and up, right? So then they add a little more and a little more and a little more to hopefully stem the tide. So I really do see both sides in that this is a preventative measure, and the government doesn't want to take responsibility for people going out and camping in groups. But at the same point in time, I think it's a little ridiculous that we can't put a little faith into our residents that, well, if you're going out there, you know the risks. Keep your 6 feet and leave it up to the individual, right? So we're really in the middle on that one for myself, leaning a little more into like, well, come on, BC government, let us police ourselves in this, right?
Councillor?
Yeah, and it's more than just provincial parks. I'd like to correct you on that. It's also recreation sites as well. So for a place like Moose Lake, you cannot use the camping facilities at Moose Lake. You cannot use the boat launch at Moose Lake. There's no other way to get onto Moose Lake without launching your boat through the recreation side of the park. That is confirmed. I've been checking and double checking, triple checking on that. That is there any way that we can get onto that lake? You can access the lake if you walk through the woods, and you do not go through the recreation site. But there's lots of them: Boot Lake, Stony Lake. Can't go to Bear Hole. Pretty much anywhere you go fishing when the ice comes up, you can't even fish now. You can't ice fish Gwillem Lake. Like you go out on, I was like ice fishing on Gwillem Lake, I don't know, a couple of weeks back, and there was 3 of us on the entire lake. You know, that's a big lake, right? We are socially distanced on that lake, no problem at all. But I don't know. I just want to know, like, from the rest of the council, would we feel strongly enough as a council to send a letter to the provincial government saying that, we think our area is a little different than down there. I mean, we have a different set of circumstances up here than what they have down there. So, I understand, the idea that we don't want everybody from the Lower Mainland coming up and camping in our area. They don't want people coming over from Alberta camping in our area. Alberta just shut down all their ORVs basically in the northern part of the province for fire bans. So people in Alberta can't even quad in Alberta, but that doesn't shut down in BC yet. So what's stopping those folks from Grand Prairie going, you know what, we can't quad in our backyard, let's go to BC. So how long until the BC government catches on to that and says, well, we can't let all those Albertans come over here. We're going to have to shut down ORVs in our areas as well. So to me, it's the slippery slope that we keep going down until somebody stands up and says, you know what, this is a little too far. And you stand a better chance with a group of individuals, or with a group of councillors and mayor, than we do as an individual to say that we don't agree with this. So I just want to know what everybody else's flavor is.
Okay. So let's just deal with 8.4 for sort of financial relief for residents. Is that done? Is that discussion and topic done? Councilor Norbury?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about short-term stuff. I was thinking that maybe this is a good conversation to talk about the longer-term options that we should be maybe rattling around, today. Like, I don't think we should be making any decisions today. But I think when we're looking at COVID relief, we do need to have that conversation of what this is going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now, how it's going to be affecting our local economy. And I think we should be looking at infrastructure projects moving forward. We need to. This will soon be the time to start adding to our community, our economy, right? Like if we look at what happened in the States when they went into their recession, depression, their plan moving forward was like, well, we're going to stimulate the economy. We're gonna push these things forward. And how they did with that was that they started up their infrastructure project. They started spending money. I think that's something we should be thinking about now, moving forward. How are we going to keep people working? How are we going to create jobs in our community? How are we going to keep our tradesmen working? I think that's something that I'd like to have a discussion about with people. And I agree. It's sort of we're talking, taking a step back into sort of large picture stuff, but that's our role as councillors, right? We're supposed to take a look at large vision stuff and how we're going to address issues. And my concern is moving forward that we're moving into recession. We need to take a big picture look and say, hey, we need to stimulate things in our local area. And I think that's infrastructure projects is a big one.
Councillor Kirby and Councillor Howe.
Sorry, dear. I'm good. I don't have anything at this point.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Howe.
Yeah, so the infrastructure thing is interesting because we've heard from Mr. Wall countless times up here that we pay a premium on any project that we'd like to get done in Tumbler Ridge because we're remote and people just seem to charge more money. They don't want to come here. The costs are always inflated for us. And is this an opportunity for us to get one of these buildings built or one of these projects that we want to do
for a better price. And I think if we had the crystal ball to say that the day is June 15th, that the province of BC is going to be back open, ready for business, come start doing work in Tumbler Ridge or whatever, is that everybody is going to get that same date. Whether maybe they open the north up first, or they open up all of BC first, or Western Canada first, or however they decide to do this, that we are going to be in a queue with every other municipality trying to do the same thing. If there's some way that we can, put ourselves to the head of that queue, if there's some way we can put a down payment on a building so that they're here as soon as the crisis ends, it may be an opportunity actually not only for us to stimulate the economy, but save a few dollars as well, maybe.
Councilor Norbert.
Thank you. And my thought is that if we look at our residents in Tumbler Ridge, we have a lot of tradesmen, right? Because this is what the work here demands of us. Like, tradesmen move to our community, and it's tradesmen of all sorts. So my thought is that we could be looking at opportunities for people within our own community. Like cost savings is exactly one of the benefits to this looking forward, and we don't have to commit to anything now, but it's something we should be thinking about. And that this is an opportunity for companies to start up in town, because there are these tradesmen, there's these people that are great with their hands, that they can start getting these contracts that they can be adding to our community. We're providing jobs. We're getting what we need to be done. We're fixing our buildings. We're building things, and then we're putting people to work, right? And yeah, that's what's.
So just on that, I think we might have to involve staff. But we have policies that we have to follow when it comes to some of that stuff, when it goes out to whether it's tender or RFP. So, but I know that's in our policy. Not that we can't ever waive it, but Mayor Bertrand.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Excuse me. Interesting points there, councillors. I like where you're going with that, and it is probably an opportunity for cost savings for contractors. Just curious, I want to throw out to council, would they be interested in nominating the remaining surplus this year to a COVID relief fund, approximately $300,000 to $400,000?
Councilor Norbert.
I would personally be in support of that, but I think we could do better. We should do more. Right, we can do a lot more, and just putting any sort of number on it, maybe limiting our ability to fight through this thing, right? Like that's really the way that I'm seeing it. How are we going to climb our way out of this hole that COVID-19 is putting us into? I'd be concerned about keeping it too low.
I could respond.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor Bertrand.
Yeah, and Councillor Norbury, the only reason I mentioned that number was I believe that's roughly around what our remaining surplus will be with this current budget. So I was just looking to allocate the surplus into a certain COVID fund.
Used for what? Slushy fund
to be determined
and then decide?
To be determined, I would say.
Councilor Berry?
Yeah, and I think maybe to add on to a little bit what you're saying, Councillor Cook, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything like that.
No,
we do have a substantial amount in reserve, right? So I think maybe it's a better idea to come up with initiatives first, rather than the monetary amount, just because it may cost less, it may cost more, but if we're limiting ourselves on any amount, we could be doing a disservice to how we're going to address this. And if we create a task force or what have you, we can just have costs come out of that, and we shouldn't be thinking about the money at this point in time. We should be thinking about initiatives and how we can help, and then the costs come after.
Okay, anybody else? So somebody can just fill me in on this task force. I'm assuming when I excused myself due to the motion that was coming up, definitely had a thing there going on, so I had to leave. So, Councilor Norbert?
Yeah, I think it was Councillor Kirby who brought up that maybe we should be starting a mayor's task force, come up with ideas on how to address COVID-19 in our community.
So I'm just concerned if any other council received any feedback from residents. So like my phone hasn't shut off. I mean, I almost think our question and answer period should be done through staff, through an email, so people can actually start asking questions. Question and answer period through our staff, through an email, because the amount of texting and / messages I'm receiving at this point is unreal. And most of them are saying how they talk to councils and they don't understand how council isn't voicing their concerns. And it wasn't just from one person. I'm just curious if anybody had residents reach out to them in the last week. Josh Lehman?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've talked to some residents, but the only one concern that they had was how come they didn't get the tax break that the businesses did, but they weren't all, it wasn't that they were angry, they just voiced a little bit of concern, but it was not a major concern. So, and other than that, really nothing big that, or nobody brought up anything to me.
Councilor Majinski?
Yeah, I've had 2 people reach out to me, and both of them didn't watch the live feed, so they didn't know what the debate was about. And that was all around the residential tax rate being taken away. So there was 2 concerns, and one was actually a family member as a resident in the community here. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to pause for a second and sort of point out, like, I don't think we should be taking comments and concerns from residents through our cell phones during these meetings. We don't allow people to add to our council meetings when they sit in the gallery, and even though it's convenient to have our cell phones here, it is a dangerous thing to have the live feed of concerns coming through.
No, I agree with you.
And I do agree that there should be a mode of question and answer period. But directly to answer your question, I've had. It's just going to muddy the waters, really. I mean, yeah, there's going to be the vocal people that are upset. Again, they never saw the live feed. They don't know the rationale. But I did take the time to talk to them and explain my position. We may not have agreed, but at least they understood. And I'll tell you, I've had other people in the complete opposite, say that, say that they supported the decisions that we made or were against. I mean, I don't think we should be going back and rehashing things. We have to trust the system that we have. And not everyone's going to agree with the decisions that we made. But we sort of have to stick to the decisions that were made. And Councillor Lehman, you made a great point earlier. We can't help everyone, right? And I definitely want to try. I think we should try, and that's sort of the duty and that falls on our shoulders. Like, yeah, this job is tough sometimes, but that's the job, right? And sometimes also the job is accepting something went with what you agreed with, and sometimes they didn't go with what you agreed with. We just have to move forward, and right now we need to be looking forward in what can we do now, and that's the discussion that we're having. Right? Like, this is the discussion we should be having. Let's not get off on what happened. Let's focus on moving forward. And I think if we're looking forward, can I continue?
Yeah, give it.
Thank you. I've already more longer term things that we should be looking at. NDIT. And I believe, Councillor Majinski, you're a rep there, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they offer renovation credits. Right? They're offering renovation credits for businesses up to a certain amount of money. Maybe we should be looking at how we can offer that for residents. Because during a time, again, people are out of work, they need things to do. Maybe this is something that we can help them with, because where are they going to buy the materials from? They're going to be buying the materials from local people, right? You can pick up the screws and what have you at maybe at the dollar store, picking up the lumber at Home Hardware. I think maybe that's something we should be looking into. Right? Is it something that we can actually do? And if it is, do we want to go down that route?
I can speak a little bit of that. NDIT does do a small business program where you can apply for a $5,000 grant to do a business facade improvement on the outside of your building. So, and anybody can apply for that. through the NDIT grant. So.
Anybody else? Councillor Kirby?
Well, I don't know what to answer to. We've had a lot of questions thrown out there. I think, responding to what the residents got back to me on, they were surprised that we couldn't come up with an alternate motion after defeating the residential taxes, that they figured that we should have come back with something instead of just letting that go, and why it wasn't a 50-50 across the board. That was one comment I had. Another one was 100% business, the taxes to the businesses. Was it really going to help the businesses? And so there was kind of a little bit of a concern on that. And I really think that, we still need time to figure out what's going on, and we're wasting too much time trying to think of ideas. I think I like the idea of a mayor's task force, and maybe the COVID-19 fund that Mayor Bertrand brought up. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think I would vote with him on that.
So I want to apologize to everyone. I just this last week, all I've been doing is coming up with what can we do. I think something that we should do immediately, and maybe we should maybe I should just shut up and stop coming with all these crazy ideas, is that I think we really need to address people's information and understanding of what's available to them currently in terms of funds. I think that is a big issue, that they don't realize that there's this, the CERB assistance program. They don't understand that there's $500 that can go to your rent from the BC government. They don't understand that there's deferral programs with multiple utility agencies, right? And a lot of this stuff, it's on the Invest Tumbler Ridge site that Mr. Powell created. And I don't know if you guys take a look at that, but it has an exhaustive list of what's available there. I think we need to take that list, we need to put it in some sort of physical form. We should be putting it in everyone's mailbox, and even putting it out on all of our buildings, all of the signage boards around town, because this is one of the biggest things that I mean, it's maybe not the biggest things, but I think people really need to know this. And unless you're online, unless you're talking to someone, you just don't know, right? So I think that is something that we should be committing to immediately. And I think it's to this meeting. I mean, I can if you give me a few minutes, I can draft a motion.
Anybody else?
I agree.
On the spot, yeah, I'm writing it down.
But it makes sense, though. I mean, you're right. I mean, I've been on the website. I mean, I actually get tagged in it through an email from the district on all their updates and stuff like that, with just being that partnering partner with their with deliveries and stuff. And there's some pretty good information on there. Not everybody actually makes, even though people are hurting and lost jobs, a lot of them don't always aren't able to access those funds. Even though they've just been laid off, but they also look at, maybe other things that you have going on that maybe you can't touch and stuff, that you can't actually access. Like one of the things is rent. The government made a rule. They can't kick you out. They don't have to pay rent now. Let's kick them out. Can't kick them out, right? So person rate, I think it's 3 months right now as they've set it at. And the landlord can't kick them out. Good to go yet, Councilor Bear?
That the DTR release information to the public via mail, post office boxes, and public spaces in regards to monetary assistance and payment deferrals available to the public.
Did you get it?
I've got the first half.
I can slow down, and we can make amendments. We can craft it. We can defeat it, right? But that the DTR release information to the public via post office boxes, public spaces, in regards to monetary assistance. It's okay. And payment deferrals available to the public.
Second. Councillor Majinski. Discussion. Councillor Norbert.
The only, my only concern is that, do we believe that there anything might be missing? And I'd like to go to staff on that one.
I wouldn't vote.
Via our EDO, if we're missing.
No, I'll go to Mr. Noble.
Mr. Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, Deputy Mayor and Council. I did reach out when I shared the information to say, if there is anything missing, please do share it, because it's not exhausted at the moment. We're adding to it continuously, so I would encourage you to review it and share anything you might see is missing.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Any more in regards to financial relief for residents? Okay. Chance period, and no, I did bring that up, and just so everybody knows, it was before our meeting that the text and messages came, because I hadn't heard back from people. So it wasn't during the meeting. The only people that have been texting me is Councillor Kirby and Mayor Bertrand. So instead of having them try to cut in while we're talking, I asked them to text me. So that's the only reasons that was brought up. But one thing we should discuss in regards to question and answer period, and I'm not saying via through our cell phone, but via through our staff. Like, I don't think we should get the question come to us. The question should go through them in the email, and maybe they can be asking it for the resident. The resident give their name, their address, and the question, as long as it's part of this agenda. So that was just a thought. Councillor Norbert.
Yeah, I've been to a few conferences and sessions that have a online way of doing that. Like, somebody could submit a question and then it gets votes and then it gets answered that way. I mean, it doesn't address the people that aren't on the internet, but it is something that we could be looking at. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what they are called, but I know there's a couple of things that are just like that. They can just pose a question and they go to a communal spot, like somebody would host it, right? Yeah.
And see, my thing is we allow 15 minutes, right? So, I mean, it's one question per person. If they're in the gallery, we allow up to 15 minutes. And to me, that could be just emails to, and I don't know, it should go to our personal email to our CAO or our interim CAO, but maybe there's another email that we can have added that she has access to it and can ask those questions. Just a thought, I had an idea. Councillor Hall.
Is there any ability for people to add comments on the live stream? Can they put comments on the live stream?
Yes. Yes. We usually disable it, but we could leave it enabled.
And like when the live stream is on, are you able to watch it? Do you watch it, or
I don't watch it. I could.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, 1 second. Mr. Orville.
So one of the reasons why we disable the chat on live stream is that we are responsible, or we can be held responsible for the things that are being said on there. So if people start making threats, if whatever happens there, it becomes a liability issue for the district.
Mayor Bertrand and Councillor Noberry.
Oh, really? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think we're running on a slippery slope there to look for live stream comments. I definitely think it would need to be filtered. But I do like that idea of emailed questions, and maybe we can go through them and pick top 5 or something like that for a weekly meeting. That's an interesting idea. Since we aren't getting a lot of participation in the gallery this term overall, it's an interesting proposition for sure.
Yeah, and my thing there would be only during the COVID-19 that we've asked people not come into our chambers. And I'm sorry, residents want to come down, they see our agenda, staff has it online, they can come and pick a copy up early enough. I mean, when COVID-19 is over, and it will be over, I don't think that should be active then. I think if they're concerned with what's in our agenda, then come down face to face. I just think while COVID-19 is, we've asked people not to come in here. I actually believe now we made it that it's closed to the public, our meeting. So I think it gives an opportunity if there is questions. And I mean, and that's why I said through our CAO, is that way, there's a filter there that as long as they're willing to supply their name and address. Councilor Norbert.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't think we should be opening up our comment section to the internet. You know, I spent a lot of time on the internet, and let me tell you, you don't want to let that beast out of his cage, because you're going to find, like, people are going to catch on to this. But I do agree that we should offer, and moving forward past COVID-19, we should be allowing for an outlet for these people at home, because I know people, they just prefer to watch at home now. Like, even before the COVID-19, there were multiple people that had watched it at home, and they would bring it up to me afterwards. Well, I watched it at home and this and that. Like, well, maybe we should be looking at a way for them to offer questions or have questions answered, but I think there needs to be a filter there for sure.
Okay. Maybe it's something we can talk about another time. Some motion, something debated, but again, I'm not in favor after COVID-19. I think if a resident sees our agenda and they have a concern of what's in our agenda or what's going to be debated here, come down and be present. I mean, it's easy to stay at home, but we look at the gallery and anytime it's question answered, some nights it depends what it is. I believe it was guns and chickens one time we filled this place. We do an open house when we've had to cancel the ones we've done, but even that, I mean, it's some pretty light turnout sometimes. I mean, people can catch us on the streets for sure, via your house or wherever, but it's nice if they come out and tell us or ask us what they want. To me, that's how I inform my decision. Okay, anything else from council? Okay, look for adjournment. Councilor Norbert.
The Tuesday, April 14th, 2020, Policies and Priorities Committee meeting adjourned.
Second, Councilor. All in favor? Okay.